We all know there's a housing affordability crisis in America. But what if a real solution wasn't about building more giant skyscrapers, but about totally rethinking what a home even is? Well, today we're going to break down Title III of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, a piece of legislation that's trying to do exactly that by shaking up the world of manufactured housing. So get this. What if one of the biggest things holding back affordable housing wasn't just money, but literally just a handful of words in an old law? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But for decades, a single rule has dictated how factory-built homes are made, and that's all about to change. This isn't some tiny tweak, it's a fundamental shift.
All right, so first up is Section 301. This part of the act goes right for the jugular. It tackles the very definition of a manufactured home. It's all about dragging the rules into the modern age to match today's building technology.
For years, this one little requirement has been a huge deal. The law said every single home had to be built on a permanent steel chassis, basically a frame. This put a real straitjacket on innovation, forcing every design to fit this one model and pretty much shutting the door on other ways of building.
And here's the fix. It sounds so simple, right? The new law lets homes be built with or without that permanent chassis. This is monumental. That one little change blows the doors wide open for all kinds of new, high-quality, factory-built homes that can look and feel a lot more like the traditional houses we're used to seeing.
Now you might be thinking, is this just a free-for-all? Nope. To make sure everything is safe and transparent, the law puts a really clear tracking system in place. Every home built without a chassis gets its own distinct label, a unique data plate, and a special note on the invoice. This means everybody, from the inspector to the person buying the home, knows exactly what they're looking at.
So, how does a big federal change like this actually happen on the ground? Well, the Act sets up a clear process. Basically, states have 1 to 2 years to get their local laws in line and certify that they'll treat all these homes equally. After that, they have to check in every year to prove they're still playing by the new rules.
And they've built in a pretty strong incentive for states to get on board. The consequences for not complying are serious. If a state doesn't certify, they're banned from allowing these new types of homes to be built, sold, or installed there. They'd basically be locking themselves out of a major new housing market. Okay, so designing new kinds of homes is great, but that's only half the battle. You have to be able to pay for them, right? And that's where Section 302 comes in. It's all about tackling the money side of things, especially for modular construction.
The problem is our current financing system, especially the programs from the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, just wasn't designed for factory-built homes. Developers have to deal with all these hurdles, like draw schedules, which are these super rigid timelines for when they get paid. It just doesn't work for the fast pace of building a home on an assembly line.
To fix this, the law tells the FHA, hey, you need to completely overhaul your rulebook. They have to find all the barriers, rethink those old payment schedules, and create a new, more flexible system. The bottom line is to make the financing actually work with modern construction, not against it.
Next up, let's talk about the part that hits home for buyers, the loan limits. Section 303 is all about modernizing the numbers and removing a major financial roadblock.
The problem here is pretty simple. The cost of, well, everything has gone through the roof, but the government-backed loan limits for these homes just haven't. The numbers were so outdated that they made it really tough for regular people to get the financing they needed.
Just look at these new limits. They're a huge jump. For a multi-section home and lot, the limit is now almost $240,000. That's a game changer. And really critically, for the very first time, the law sets loan limits for accessory dwelling units, ADUs. This is massive and makes financing these options so much more accessible.
And maybe the most important part of this whole thing is that it's not just a one-time fix. The law says these loan limits now have to be indexed annually. That just means they'll adjust with the market every single year. So we're not going to be having this same conversation in 5 years when the limits are out of date all over again.
So beyond building new homes, this act also focuses on protecting the communities we already have. That brings us to Section 304, the Price Act, which is all about preserving the quality of life and affordability in manufactured housing communities. Look, these communities are a huge source of affordable housing in America, but a lot of them are really struggling. We're talking about aging infrastructure, rising costs, and a very real risk that residents could be displaced from their homes. This section is designed to address that head-on. The solution is something called the Price Act. It creates a brand new competitive grant program aimed at funneling investment directly into these communities to help them upgrade, stay stable, and most importantly, remain affordable for the long haul.
And what's really cool is how flexible this program is. The grant money can be used for just about everything, from fixing basic infrastructure like pipes and roads, to replacing older homes, to even helping residents with down payments. It's a whole toolkit for preserving these communities.
The goal here is crystal clear. The law explicitly says that the priority has to be on projects that help low and moderate income residents and preserve long-term affordability. The focus is squarely on helping the people who need it most. There's no ambiguity about it.
So when you put all these different pieces together, what does it all add up to? Well, you start to see a really clear three-part strategy for changing the housing game in America. It's a really smart three-pronged approach. First, you innovate by changing the definitions to allow new kinds of homes to be built. Second, you finance them by modernizing the loan programs and making them affordable. And third, you preserve the affordable housing we already have by investing in existing communities. Innovate, finance, and preserve. So this legislation really does tear down some old, stubborn barriers and lays a brand new foundation. But the real question is, will it be enough? The rules are changing on paper, but will states, lenders, and builders all step up to seize this opportunity? The legal framework is now in place. The real work of reshaping America's housing landscape, well, that's just beginning.